In episode 21, we're about to meet the next person on the Thundercats friends list, and his name is Dr. Dometone. So the story begins with the Thunderkittens swimming. Well, unfortunately for Wily Cat, he looked up in the sky and told his sister that there's a storm coming in. And he says, we might as well head back. And she says, oh, come on, you're just scared that you'll lose. So, as the storm continues to get worse and worse and worse, and that's when Wily Cat told his sister that they had to get out of the water because, as everybody knows, it's not safe to swim during the storm, but that's what Wily Kid did anyway. But then, Wily Kid thought she had felt something moving under the water, but at first she didn't think much of it. Back with her brother, who had made it to shore, he was about to catch her attention, but then he saw something or someone that just came out of the water and in front of his sister. Back with Wily Kid's brother, what he saw was unbelievable. A shape of a frog's head that's coming out of the water. He shouted at his sister to look out behind her, and by the time that she did, what she saw was unbelievable. A giant machine that looked like a frog. Well, almost, but not exactly a real frog. But what it did is that it had swallowed her. When Wily Cat saw it on the shore, he was scared to death. So back with Wily Kid, who's Wily Cat's sister, who was swallowed up earlier, but not really, because what looked like a frog is really a machine inside. She has never seen anything like it before, and then before you know it, she was face to face with a stranger that operates it. So she asked, what's going on? Who are you? Don't be afraid, the stranger said. I'm not here to hurt you. I wanted to ask the Thundercats for help, he said. Oh, the stranger's name is Dr. Dometone, and Wily Kid had just met him. So back with Wily Cat, who's Wily Kid's sister, who's still on the beach, he saw the exact same creature that swallowed up his sister, or so he thought, and he just came out of the water and to approach Wily Cat. Now, luckily for him, he saw what the machine that looked like a frog looks like, and he's never seen anything like it. He ran off. And luckily for him, he made his escape on one of the unicorns at Unicorn Forest. So now on a unicorn, both of them are now on their way to Cat's lair. So meanwhile there's Lionel and Snarf, and when Lionel looked over his shoulder, he saw Wily Cat, who miraculously made his escape on a unicorn from Unicorn Forest. So back with Wily Cat, who's Wily Kid's brother, that's when Lionel was asking him what's going on and where his sister went. Well, Wily Cat just told him the bad news, and what he saw earlier just swallowed up his sister, or so he thought. That was right after Lionel told him to slow down. Then Wily Cat continued to explain that while that happened, he manages to escape. So Lionel was asking, where did this happen? It happened earlier on the beach, Wily Cat said. So before heading off, Lionel told Snarf to tell the others what happened, while himself and Wily Cat go to investigate on the beach. And while riding on the unicorn, that's when both he, Lionel, and Wily Cat head off. So back with Wily Cat and Lionel, who just left the lair thanks to the lift from the unicorn, they had arrived at Unicorn Forest. And according to Wily Cat, this is where he saw the creature last. He can tell by the size of its footprint. It was undeniable. Well, Wily Cat continues to explain to Lionel that if I'm not mistaken, that creature has to be 50 feet tall at least. And of course, there it is, not that far away, because it was just there, right in front of Wily Cat and Lino. Well, back with Lino, he now realizes that what Wily Cat had told him was true, and he's not kidding when he says this. That is one big giant, and it looks like a frog almost. Now, that's the assassin creature that Wily Cat saw earlier that swallowed his sister, or so he thought. So, Lionel also said that it's not exactly 50 feet, and that's because, according to Wily Cat, it's just sitting down at the moment. But then suddenly, what Lionel and Wily Cat saw next was unbelievable. A machine that looked like a frog is standing up. So Wily Cat, according to what Lionel saw, he was telling him the truth. So, as watching the creature very carefully, that's when Wily Cat looked at Lionel to make a suggestion to bring the Thunder Tank over there and blast that thing. But Lionel said no way, and then he explains why, because he said to Wily Cat that there's no way they can blast that creature without a proper cause. Or, however, in Lionel's case, if there's a reason for it. Then Wily Cat, who was very upset with Lionel, then pleased his case to say, "That thing swallowed my sister. You call that a good reason?" he said. Well, to answer Wily Cat's question, that's when Lionel told Wily Cat that they must find out what's going on and why the creature did what it had to do. Well, in Wily Cat's case, he just told Lionel that it's probably hungry. That's why it's here in the first place. So Lionel knew that there was something off with that creature, but he had no idea why. But then suddenly both Wily Cat and Lionel saw something very interesting, the creature opening its mouth, and out comes the exact same stranger that Wily Cat's sister had just met, Dr. Dometone. So back with Wily Cat and Lionel, they watched the exact same stranger that Wily Cat's sister had met, Dr. Dometone, having a picnic basket and a blanket over his shoulder, and as he climbs out, he was busy setting up. Next thing you know, what they saw next was unbelievable. Dr. Dometone, speaking of which, back with him, he just took out a bouquet of flowers from the basket. But then Lionel approached him from behind. Back with Dr. Dometone, that's when he saw Lionel, but Lionel's not alone because Wily Cat's with him. So Dr. Dometone was telling Lionel, "Let me go!" Then it's Wily Cat's turn to plead his case by asking a question. "Where's my sister Wily Cat? What have you done with her?" he said. So back with Lionel, it's now his turn to ask a question. "Who are you? And what is this thing doing here?" he said. But then by surprise, Lionel just heard a voice of Wily Kid telling him to not hurt Dr. Dometone. "Doctor who?" Lionel asked. "Dr. Dometone," Wily Kid said. But wait, that's not all. Lionel and Wily Cat just couldn't believe it. It's Wily Cat. She also came out the exact same machine as Dr. Dometone did. Well, Wily Cat was in shock because good news, his sister's fine. So Wily Cat says, "I don't get it. I saw you get swallowed by that thing." Well, she said it was her fault that it happened. The reason why she said it was her fault because she says that she accidentally swam right into Herky. That's the name of the machine, by the way, or Hercules for short. "Did you say Herky?" Lionel asked. Wily Kid says, "Yeah, because," well, Wily Kid explains further that that's the name of the machine that Dr. Dometome has operated. So now it's Lionel's turn to talk to Dr. Dometome to find out what he's doing here and what he wanted. But before he could do that, Lionel says that according to what Wily Cat had just told me, you were pursuing him back at Unicorn Forest. Well, I want to know why, and you have some explaining to do, he said. So Dr. Tom Tom had admitted to Lionel that yes, it's true, he did pursue Wily Cat earlier, and the reason why he's doing it, because he just told Lionel that he needed the Thundercats' help. So, meanwhile, back at Cat's Lair, that's exactly what happened. So, Dr. Dometone and the rest of the Thundercats are in the meeting room, and Dr. Dometone had to explain the situation to them. He said that he's in charge of the oceanic plug that is located in the ocean. The what? The Thundercats asked. Well, to explain further, that's when Dr. Dometone said that many centuries ago, there was a big fissure that caused the entire crack in the ocean. But luckily for them, that's where the oceanic plug comes in. So Dr. Dometone explains further that unless the plug had sealed itself up, the oceans will drain itself and then cools off the core of the earth. The entire earth will die, including everything else. So long story short, back in the present, in the Kessler's meeting room, Dr. Dometone explains further that now here comes a problem. The oceanic plug is under attack. Unless something is done fast, then this can mean bad news. Well, Wily Kid has her turn to ask a question. Why would anybody do a thing like this? According to Wily Cat, after he agrees with Dr. Dometone, he says without the Earth's core fire, then it means the entire Earth would be cold and turn into ice. Then Dr. Dometone explains further that many light years away on a planet called Blue Plondor, that's where Scrape lives. So Dr. Tom Tom explains further that Scrape's job at the time is that he was sent on his mission to drain all the oceans of Third Earth. So he's on his way to Third Earth. And that's what happened. So meanwhile, back with Scrape, he had just arrived on Third Earth in his giant eel ship. So in the ocean, we have the oceanic plug. Now, before we go any further, I just wanted to say that Scrape's plan at the time was to drain the ocean floor to obtain a mineral that's located there. That's why he arrived on Third Earth. Anyway, back with the oceanic plug, it was guarded at the time by both Hercules, or Herky for short, and Samson. Now, Hercules was operated by Dr. Dontum himself. Then Dr. Dometone explains further that about a month earlier, while he and Hercules, or Herky for short, went out to get some supplies and was going to come back. But what he didn't know is that Scrape had already arrived at the oceanic plug and planned an attack. Luckily, Simpson was there to prevent it from happening, but he didn't have a chance. According to Dr. Dometone, by the time he came back, he was minutes too late to do anything about it. According to him also, the electric eel was so powerful. He knew that Herky, or Hercules for short, just couldn't stand a chance against him. So back in the present, in the Castler's meeting room, that's when Dr. Dontome explains further that that's why he needed help immediately. And that's why he needed the Thundercats in order to take care of the problem and to resolve it. But wait, there's more, because Dr. Dontome also explains that there's a crew members that are working in the plug right now. And so he said if we don't hurry and do something about it and fast, something bad's going to happen. Plus, what's even worse is that Dr. Dontome has the supplies for his crew, and if he doesn't get to them in fast, they'll starve to death. So Panther knew that this is a serious situation. He didn't please his case to say, let me get this straight. So you're saying that if your crew ever breaks out that the eel will get itself in? That's correct, Dr. Dometone said. Then Dr. Dometone explains that there's some worse news. That if Scrape ever unplugs the great plug, this could mean serious problem. That means everything will be dried up, and it'll be nothing but a big rock, just like Blue Plunder was before Scrape even left. So back in the Kessler's meeting room, Dr. Dontone was asking the Thundercats, will you help me? It's the only way that we can save the oceanic plug from being unplugged, and that way we can save Third Earth. He also said that there is no way that the oceanic plug could be falling into the wrong hands. So after Dr. Dontome had discussed the plan with the Thundercats, that's when Tiger agrees with him and said, we must get to your crew and fast, because he said that there's no time to waste. Even Panther has his turn to agree with Tigra. So Lion says, okay, then what are we waiting for? We gotta get there and hurry, he said. So, meanwhile, outside Castler, we have Dr. Dontone, the Thunder Kittens, and Lionel that are going inside Hercules, or Herky for short. That's the machine that Dr. Dontome operates. So after Hercules the robot frog is all set, he's ready to go. See, now he's on his way to the oceanic plug. So speaking of which, back with that's located underneath the water. Inside the plug were a couple of crew members, and they're getting worried that Dr. Dontome has been missing and he hasn't come back yet. So, when one of the crew members was asking a question of how is he so sure of it if he's not laying in wait or something? Then one of the crew members just let slip that they just ran out of food about a week ago, and now he's getting really worried and afraid that Dr. Dontome may never come back. And then he said that if help doesn't arrive and soon, And if something's not done about it, then they'll be too weak to do anything about it. So when one crew member agrees with him, there's only one thing left to do. So he spoken to the PA system to say, stand by for an observation tower. So the observation tower was activated. So far, everything's all clear, or so the crew thought. Then one of the crew members was asking if he should prepare a sub and to get it ready. I suppose it's a good idea, the other crew member said. So let's go for it, he said. So that's exactly what both of the crew members did. Meanwhile, outside the oceanic plug, what the crew members didn't know is that they were soon proven wrong because remember Scrape that Dr. Dometone had mentioned? None of the crew members of the plug had any idea that he was also there, waiting to make his move. So that's what happened. Back inside the plug, the scientists are getting the sub ready and it's ready to go. So, when one of the members said that they're going to try to get themselves out of there, but still they were not aware that Scrape is ready to make his move. In the electric eel, of course. So long story short, back inside of the oceanic plug, the crew that was inside of the sub earlier, and then one of them says, stand by, the sub is ready to launch. So anyway, once the crew members are inside of the sub, it's all set and ready to go. Oh, by the way, one of the crew members stayed behind while he launched the sub, so he did. But what the other didn't realize is that while in the submarine, there's an electric eel that's waiting for him. Unfortunately, the crew's partner wasn't so lucky when both he and the sub were swallowed up by that giant eel, or so he thought. Then, when one of the crew members who stayed behind when he saw it happen, the giant eel went towards him, and when he saw it, he was in shock. So back with escaping the giant eel, what he did next was unbelievable. He destroyed not only the observation tower, but puts a hole in the top of the plug, where the second one of the crew members was in it. And if that's not bad enough, there was water inside of it too. So back with Hercules, or Herky for short, the robotic frog that has Dr. Dometone in it, but he's not alone because Lionel's there too, and so are the Thunder Kittens. So Dr. Dometone just told the Thundercats the good news that they're almost there to the oceanic plug right now. And of course, the Thunderkins were in awe because they've never seen a place just like it before up until that minute. But now, according to Dr. Dometone, now here comes a problem. And by the time the Hercules looked on the right-hand side, there's the dome all right, but there's something inside of it already. An eel, and it's now on the roof of the oceanic plug. And when Lionel saw it, he was in shock. He knew that what Dr. Dometone told him in the Thundercats earlier back at the meeting room was true. Now don't forget, Scrape's the one that's operating it. So speaking of Scrape, meanwhile back with him, he's now inside of the oceanic plug now that both of the crew members have been captured, so it's now time for him to go to the second step of the plan. So you're probably wondering what was the second step of the plan? Well, Scrape went on a PA to say, attention everyone, you have 10 minutes to evacuate or else I'll pull the plug immediately. So he sets off the alarm, and now the rest of the crew members, besides the two that he had captured, but we'll get back to them later, they had no choice but to do what he had said to do. So they did. Back with Dr. Dometone after he found out what had happened, he says, oh no, Scrape has taken over the plug. I'm afraid we lose. To cheer Dr. Dometone up, that's when Lionel says, we haven't lost yet. Now you've mentioned before that you have a plan, right, Doctor? Well, even though the plan wasn't fully explained, but we'll get to that later. So back inside the oceanic plug, remember Scrape that was inside earlier? Well, now the eel that he had operated just told him that there's bad news. Back with the Thundercats inside Hercules, or Herky for short, with Dr. Dometone, So, according to Dr. Dometone, his plan was to have Lionel and Wily Cat disguise themselves as sharks. And once that was finished, Dr. Dometone said that Lionel's job was to tie a cable around the eel's tail, and once it happens, it'll disable the electric eel itself. That's interesting. That's if Lionel could get close enough, of course. So back with Scrape inside of the electric eel, he just saw Hercules, or Herky for short. That's what Dr. Dometone operates. And then he says, so, that's one of those machines, eh? I'll give him a shocking welcome he'll never forget. And so Scrape's on his way. So back with Herky, or Hercules for short. Now remember, inside were Dr. Dometone and Wily Kit, who's Wily Cat's sister. So Dr. Dontone told Lionel and Wildcat, stand by. So he opens up Herky's mouth, and out comes Lionel and Wildcat. Now remember, they're disguised as sharks as part of the plan. Watching from inside of Herky were Wily Kid, who's Wily Cat's sister, and Dr. Dontone. So back was scraping the electric eel. He just saw a couple of sharks heading his way, but he had no idea that they were really Lino and Wily Cat in disguise. At least not yet, anyway. So long story short, Lionel just told Wily Cat as soon as the eel comes from his direction, he'll wrap the wire around its tail so that way it'll be grounded properly. So that's the plan. So back with Scrape, who saw a couple sharks that are swimming by, he said, though this is weird. I don't remember a couple sharks here in this area. That's because he is unaware that those are not real sharks at all. But he doesn't know it yet. So long story short, back with Lionel and Wily Cat that are disguised as a couple of sharks, which Scrape was not aware of, what he did and Wily Cat did is that they swam behind the eel. So part of the doctor's plan worked. So back with Dr. Dontome and Wily Cat, who's Wily Cat's sister, that's still inside Herky, or Hercules for short, that's when she says, they're coming, they're coming. So long story short, Dr. Dontone decided to take matters in his own hands with Herky, of course. So it's now up to Herky to stop Scrape and his electrifying eel. So the battle between them just went on as planned. So after a long story short, Dr. Dontone just told Hercules, or Herky for short, the frog that he's operating, to keep his guard up, while outside the battle continues himself and of course the electric eel with Scrape in it. So back with Scrape, he's now face to face with Dr. Dometone and Wily Kid of the Thundercats, who's Wily Cat's sister. So, to coin a phrase, he says, well, 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 looks like you're in for a tight squeeze, don't you think? Things were looking bad. That was until, aha, Dr. Dometone has a plan. So, he told Hercules, or Herky for short, to grab the neck of the eel that was exposed. So he did. Next thing you know, thanks to Hercules, the eel's not going anywhere, at the moment anyway. Back with Scrape that was inside of the eel that was shaken up thanks to Hercules, or Herky for short, he pleaded his case to say perhaps I underestimated him, but until then, he has to reach for the charge button, so that's what he was doing. Back with Wily Cat and Lionel, they were trying to hurry to save Hercules, or Herky for short. So speaking of which, back with him, he was still grabbing onto the eel. Back with Scrape, he tries to push the voltage button. Back with Lino and Wily Cat, they were trying to hurry and get the cable around the tail of the eel before something bad happens. Back with Scrape, he almost makes it to the voltage button. When back with Lino, good news for him, he wraps the cable around the back of the eel. Well, back with Scrape, he pushes the voltage button, and by the time that he did, the electric eel shot himself rather than Hercules, or Herky for short. Well, the doctor's plan worked. That's the good news. And speaking of Dr. Dometone and Wiley Kit back with them, well, they were happy to see that the plan worked. But wait, not so fast, because back with Scrape that's still inside the eel is sinking fast. So he goes to the back. Remember one of the crew members that was swallowed earlier? Well, good news, he's fine. But bad news, Scrape decides to take one of the escape pods and told one of the Plug's crew member that it's too bad he couldn't take him with him. Well, back with Lionel, he finally rejoins Dr. Dometone and Wily Cat inside Hercules, or Herky for short. So Dr. Dometone was telling Lionel, wait a minute, where's the other one? He should have been right behind me, Lionel said. But then Wily Cat made his transmission to tell him the bad news that Scrape is making his getaway in one of the escape pods. Now remember, that's the exact same escape pod that one of the crew members from the plug that was used earlier before he got captured. So back with Dr. Dometone, Wily Kid, and Lionel after they heard the bad news from Wily Cat, what makes it even worse is that Scrape is now on his way to the plug right now, and this is a terrible scenario. So Wily Cat says, don't worry, I'll get him. But Lionel wouldn't allow it and says there's no way he can do it by himself. But despite Lionel's warning, Wily Cat decided to do it anyway. But Wily Cat decides to discuss the plan with Lionel before he even did anything. He said that he's going to try to attempt to get the pod off the course instead of at the plug itself. But unfortunately, thanks to Scrape, he captures Wily Cat instead. And if things weren't bad enough, Scrape finally makes it to the oceanic plug where he just left from moments ago, when he captured the crew members, of course. Things were looking bad, but aha, Lionel has an idea. He decided to do what any good guy would do, project the Thundercat signal from his sword, of course, so that's what he did. So meanwhile, back at Kessler, we have Tigra, Panther, Chitara, and Snarf. They hopped aboard the Thunder Tank. Well, good news for the Thunder Tank. Now that the emergency rig was ready, the Thunder Tank's ready to go. So Noah is on his way. But in the meantime, back at the Oceanic Plug, there's bad news. Not only did Scrape had gotten inside of it, but he's not alone because he has Wily Cat hostage. So back with Scrape, he was looking at Wily Cat over his shoulder and says, pay attention. As soon as I press this button, in the first 17 centuries, you should see how the plug gets unplugged by itself and you'll be the one to witness it. And so that's what Scrape did. He pushed that button, and before you know it, the water begins going in. Things are looking bad. Then he started to plead a case over a PA system. He says, this is Scrape speaking. And to whom it may concern, you're about to see the ocean drained for the very first time. And of course, he did so. So back with Scrape, who was smiling with delight and thinks that he finally won by pleading his case to say, we'll have the ocean emptied in no time. Things are getting worse and worse by the minute. But then, long story short, just when Scrape was about to have a victory of his own, that's when he said, hey, wait a minute, what happened? He had no idea that there was something wrong. Then Scrape just heard the voice of Panther the Thundercat saying that's all the ocean you're gonna get. And the reason? Well, guess what? Panther just let slip to Scrape that thanks to the Thundercats activating the airtight bubble for the plug dome, that means no more water will be getting in. Also, Panthro had pleaded a case with Scrape to say even an engineer like yourself could understand this. Well, according to Scrape, he just pleaded his case to say, if that's so, then why don't you just come and get me? Well, just to say in the Thunder Tank, Panthro was more than happy to oblige, so he told Tigra to activate the air vacuum, and so Tigra did. So thanks to the air vacuum in the Thunder Tank, guess what? Scrape's plan not only backfired, but he's been captured thanks to the Thundercats. So yes, it is true. Thanks to the Thundercats, not only is the plug dome have been saved, but also Wildcat has been rescued, although it's been confirmed, although we didn't see it. So yes, it's true. Every ocean in Third Earth is saved. Of course, even better, Lionel decided to give the credit to Dr. Dometone. Of course, what's even more better is that Dr. Dometone is the next friend on the Thundercats friends list. So later that night at Cat's lair, it was in the dining room that Wily Cat decided to confess to his sister. He said that when Hercules first swallowed her, he wanted Lionel to blast that thing to bits, but then, luckily for Lionel, he didn't. Well, Wily Kid, who's Wily Cat's sister, has her turn to plead her case to say that may be true, but luckily, if it hadn't been for Lionel, then he would have blasted both Hercules, Dr. Dometone, and with her inside of it. Well, both Panthro and Tigra had agreed with the Thunderkins case. It's now their turn to plead theirs. He said, had it not been for Hercules being blown to bits and Dr. Dometone, they never would have saved the day when they did. Scrape would have pulled a plug and all the oceans of Third Earth would have been all dried up. So where's Scrape now? Wily Kid asked. Well, according to Lionel, good news for Mandora, he has been sent to the planet Penal prison where he belongs, where Scrape will never dry oceans and other planets again. Then Panthro has his turn to agree with Lionel, but not only that, but he said that there's some better news. Dr. Dometone is busy doing all of the repairs for the oceanic plug, so it'll be operational again. But that's not all. Panthro also said that with the communication that's hooking up thanks to Dr. Dometone, he can contact Castlear at any time. So Tiger says, hey, what about dinner? Oh, don't worry about it, While the Kid said. It's going to take a while. We're having fish, she said. So after the Thundercats have protested that they don't want to see another fish anymore and etc. And here comes Wily Cat, who's Wily Cat's brother, dressed as a shark. Next to show up was Snarf. And let's just say that the Thundercats are not amused with Wily Cat's joke. So that ends episode 21.